My daughter-in-law left her tablet at my house during breakfast. When a message popped up on the screen, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A picture of my husband Thomas, who passed away 7 years ago, was smiling back at me. Don't forget to subscribe to JAMAL'S Stories and tell us in the comments where you're watching from today. The summer wind was blowing through my kitchen windows in Arizona. I was putting away dishes from breakfast when I heard a strange beeping sound. 70 years old, I still keep myself busy every single day. My husband Thomas left this world 7 years back, but staying active helps me not think about how quiet the house gets at night. The beeping happened again, much louder this time. I walked toward where the noise was coming from. It was the kitchen counter near the fruit bowl. My daughter-in-law Maria had stopped by earlier to drop off some groceries. She must have forgotten her tablet when she rushed out. The screen lit up with a bright flash. I looked down and my heart stopped beating for a second. Thomas was looking right at me. My Thomas wearing a green shirt I had never bought him. His face looked younger, happier than I remembered from his final days on Earth. The screen showed a new voice message waiting. I shouldn't touch it. I knew that was wrong. But this was my husband's picture. My dead husband looking healthy and full of joy. The message preview said, "Cannot wait for Friday night's sweetness. Been counting the hours since we talked yesterday." My knees got wobbly like jelly. I grabbed the counter edge to hold myself up. Friday night's sweetness, counting hours. This message just arrived. The clock said 9:15 in the morning. Someone was sending messages to Maria right this minute. Someone who saved Thomas's picture on their device. Someone who was making plans to see her on Friday. My brain tried to understand what was happening. Maybe someone made a mistake. Maybe some bad person was playing a mean trick on our family. But why would anyone use Thomas's picture for that? And who could it be? I tapped the screen gently. The tablet wasn't locked with a password. Maria always forgets to lock her devices. I've seen her type in her code many times when we sit together. It was her son's birthday numbers. My grandson Roberto's special day. 4 simple numbers: 0815. August 15th. The tablet opened up easily. My fingers were shaking like leaves in wind as I searched for the Messages app. The contact name showed just one letter T. Only that, nothing more. But the conversation history went backward for many months. I scrolled up slowly, my heart beating so loud in my ears I could hear each thump. The messages made my stomach feel sick and twisted. Yesterday was wonderful beyond words. You look so pretty in that yellow dress I love. Thanks for the present you gave me. I'll keep it close when I see you again next week. Your son doesn't suspect anything at all. We're staying smart and careful. Your son. That meant my son Marcus. Maria's husband of 14 years, the father of my grandson Roberto, the boy who used to help Thomas fix the mailbox every Saturday morning. I felt like I couldn't get enough air into my lungs. My hands turned ice cold and sweaty all at once. The tablet felt heavy, like it was filled with terrible secrets waiting to explode. And it was. I kept reading even though I wanted to throw the tablet against the wall and watch it break into tiny pieces. The older messages were written differently. They talked about places to meet and exact times to be there. Same restaurant tomorrow at 3 o'clock sharp. Park your car in the back section like we always do. The walking trail by the river is safe for us. Nobody from our neighborhood ever goes that far out. Be extra careful when you leave your house in the morning. Make absolutely sure that Helen doesn't notice your car missing from the driveway. Helen. That's my name. They had been sneaking around right behind my back. Using locations in my own city. Making secret plans while acting like everything was perfectly normal around me. I scrolled further back through the messages, my stomach twisting tighter with each word I read. Then I saw something that made the entire world stop moving around me. A message from 4 years ago said, "I discovered more of his belongings in the storage building yesterday. Should I get rid of them or save them?" The reply from Maria came next. It was written just days after Thomas's funeral service. "Keep his leather jacket for yourself. I love putting it on. It makes me remember our special times together when Helen thought he was at the office working late. My husband's jacket. Our special times together. When I thought he was working, the tablet slipped out of my fingers and landed on the floor with a thud. This couldn't be real. This was impossible. This was evil and wrong. Thomas and Maria. My husband and my daughter-in-law. They had been seeing each other behind my back for years. Behind Marcus's back too. I picked up the tablet again with shaking hands. My fingers felt like they belonged to a stranger. Had to know more. I needed to understand everything. There were photographs hidden in a locked folder that opened when I guessed the password correctly. Roberto's birthday again, 0815. Thomas and Maria standing together. His arm wrapped around her shoulders tight. Her kissing his cheek softly. My living room clearly visible in the background of one photo. My own living room where I drink my morning coffee. They had been in my house together without me knowing while I was out getting groceries or visiting my sister downtown. One picture showed them at the beach together. Maria wearing Thomas's old fishing cap, laughing at something beyond the camera view. The date stamped on that photo said July 2016. That was 8 months before Thomas got really sick with his heart problems. 8 months before his chest started hurting him constantly. 8 months before I spent every single day taking care of him, making special healthy meals, reminding him to take his medicine on time. Had he been thinking about her during those months when I held his hand at the hospital? Was he wishing she was sitting beside him instead of me? A new message suddenly appeared on the screen, making me jump in surprise. Did you forget your tablet somewhere today? Marcus just telephoned asking if I knew where you went this morning. I told him you were probably at the grocery store shopping. Get your tablet quick and call him back fast. Again. The mystery person using Thomas's photo as their picture. But Thomas was dead and gone. He had been dead for 7 whole years. So who was T? Who was continuing this awful relationship with Maria now? Who had my husband's pictures saved, his clothes in their closet, his secrets locked in their heart? My mind worked through all the possible people it could be. Thomas's friends from work, his bowling team members, someone from his old neighborhood. Then something clicked in my brain like a light switching on. A message from 3 years ago from Thomas to Maria. Tim keeps asking where I disappear to on Wednesday afternoons lately. Think he might be following me around. We need to be way more careful from now on. Tim was Thomas's younger brother. My brother-in-law Tim was 40 years old, married to a woman named Lisa. They had 2 daughters together. He lived 1 town away and visited our house sometimes during holidays and birthdays. Always friendly, always offering to help with things. After Thomas died, Tim had been the person who helped me go through Daniel's belongings, helped me clean out the garage and the old storage building behind the house. He must have discovered evidence of the affair back then, or maybe he knew about it the entire time before Thomas even passed away. I sat perfectly still, trying to think with a clear head. The clock on the kitchen wall said 9:30. Maria had left my house at 8 o'clock. She would notice very soon that her tablet was missing from her bag. She would come back here to get it from me. I had maybe 45 minutes to decide what my next step should be. Confront her immediately with nothing prepared except shock and anger burning inside me. Or stay completely quiet, learn more information, figure out the whole truth before revealing what I knew to anyone. The doorbell rang suddenly, making me jump out of my thoughts. I looked at the tablet sitting in my lap, then at the front door. Another message appeared on the screen right then. I love you more than words can say. Cannot wait for Friday night together. I'm bringing the good wine we both like. Friday, 3 days from now. More lies stacking up, more betrayal cutting deep, more secrets poisoning everything. I made my choice in that moment. Just 1 minute please. I called out, surprised that my voice sounded completely normal and calm. I slipped Maria's tablet into my sweater pocket carefully, grabbed a kitchen towel, and walked to open the front door. Hi Helen, Maria said with a big bright smile on her face. I think I left my tablet at your house this morning. She stood on my porch looking perfect like always. Dark hair pulled back in a neat bun, expensive exercise clothes that probably cost more than my weekly groceries, A smile that didn't touch her eyes at all. Now that I knew the real truth, I could see it clearly. The fake kindness, the calculation behind every single word she spoke. "Your tablet," I said, pretending to think hard about it. "I haven't noticed it anywhere, sweetheart. But please come inside and we can search together." She walked past me into the hallway. Her perfume filled up the space around us. The same perfume I had smelled on Thomas's shirts during his last year alive. I had thought it came from his coworker at the time. Now I understood better. "Let's look in the kitchen first," I said in a pleasant voice. "I'm absolutely sure it will turn up somewhere." But the tablet stayed hidden safely in my pocket, warm against my side, filled with secrets that would rip my family into pieces, and I was going to discover every single one of them before this was over. Maria searched my kitchen like she was hunting for buried treasure. She moved containers around, looked behind the toaster, even checked inside the pantry closet. I watched her carefully, my hand resting in my pocket, touching her tablet. "This is really strange," she said, standing up straight and pushing hair away from her face. "I always set it on the counter when I come to visit. Always in the exact same spot every time." "Maybe you left it in your car outside," I suggested, keeping my voice helpful and sweet. The kind mother-in-law act. "Nothing suspicious." "Maybe so," she said, but worry showed on her face now. Her eyes moved around the kitchen one more time. For just a quick second, her look landed on my pocket where the tablet was hidden. "She suspects something," I thought to myself. "Or maybe she knows already." "Well, I really should get going now," Maria said finally. Her smile looked tight and forced. "Marcus wants me back home before lunchtime. We're taking Roberto to his swimming lesson at the pool." "Give Roberto a big hug from Grandma," I said, walking her toward the door. "And if I happen to find your tablet anywhere, I'll telephone you right away, I promise." "Thanks so much, Helen," she said. Then she walked out and got in her car. I stood at the living room window and watched her vehicle drive away slowly down the street. Only when she was completely gone from sight did I pull out the tablet from my pocket. My hands were shaking all over again as I sat down on the couch to keep reading the messages. The conversation thread went back 7 full years. 7 whole years of lies stacked on top of lies, of secret meetings in hidden places, of my husband and daughter-in-law doing terrible things together. The early messages were written carefully, almost like work emails between strangers. Then they changed completely, became romantic and sweet, full of deep feelings. Thomas had written things to Maria that I hadn't heard him say in many years of our marriage. "You make me feel alive again, like I'm 20 years old. Helen looks at me like I'm already in the grave waiting to die." That message hurt worse than all the others combined. Had I really done that to him? Had I stopped seeing him as a man somewhere along our journey together? But that didn't make any of this right. Nothing in the world could make this right or okay. I found mentions of a lake house, a place Thomas supposedly inherited from his uncle years ago, but he told me he sold that property long before. More lies piled on lies. One message had a map location attached to it. GPS numbers that Thomas and Maria didn't know the tablet had saved automatically. I wrote down the numbers on a piece of paper with my pen. Lake area about 1 hour drive from here. Close enough for afternoon secret visits. Far enough away that they wouldn't see anyone they knew from town. But I still didn't know for absolutely certain who T was. The person who took over the relationship after Thomas died and left us. My own phone started ringing suddenly, making me drop Maria's tablet on the carpet. Marcus's name showed up on my screen. "Hi, sweetie," I answered, forcing myself to sound cheerful and normal. "Mom, have you seen Maria today? She's not picking up her phone." "Because her tablet is in my pocket," I thought silently to myself. "I thought she was with you earlier this morning," I said out loud. "She left here many hours ago. Her battery probably died on her, you know how she forgets to charge things." "Maybe that's it," he said, but stress filled his voice, like he was worried about something. "Mom, I really need to talk to you about something important. Can I stop by tonight after dinner?" My heart started racing fast like a drum. "Course, honey. Anytime you need. Is everything okay with you?" Long silence on the phone. Then he said quietly, "We'll talk about it later tonight." "I love you, Mom." He ended the call. I stared at my phone, then at Maria's tablet sitting on my carpet. Did Marcus know something already? Suspect something was wrong. I needed more information as fast as possible. But investigating my own family members was dangerous, like walking on thin ice. One wrong step and they would hide everything from me. Make me look crazy, like I was a confused old woman imagining things that weren't real. I had heard about my neighbor Patricia, who lives 3 houses down. Her son's wife had been stealing money from her bank account for 2 years. When Patricia finally told someone about it, the family said she was confused and sick. They put her in a care home for old people. She died there 11 months later, still saying she was robbed, and nobody believed her. I had to be really smart about this. I spent the afternoon hours making a careful plan in my mind. First, I needed to save all the evidence somewhere safe. I connected Maria's tablet to my computer, something my grandson Roberto had taught me how to do last summer during his visit. Copied absolutely everything. Photos, messages, voice recordings, all of it. I saved the files on a small memory stick and hid it inside a book on my shelf that had a hollow space cut out. One of Thomas's old books about gardening that nobody would ever think to open. Then I focused all my energy on figuring out exactly who T was for certain. I read through the messages again and again, searching for clues and hints. T was definitely a man. That was obvious from the way he wrote his words. He knew private details about Thomas and Maria's affair, knew things that only someone close would know. The messages from T started just 4 months after Thomas's funeral, like someone had been patiently waiting for him to die first. I can give you everything he couldn't give you before. I'm younger, healthier, and I won't leave you alone like he did. The cruelty of those words made me feel sick to my stomach. But they also told me important information. T had known that Thomas was sick with heart problems, known about his weak heart and chest pains. I made a list on paper. People it could possibly be. Thomas's old friends, his brother Tim, someone from his workplace. Then I found the proof I was looking for all along. A message from 5 years ago from Thomas to Maria. Tim saw us at the coffee shop yesterday morning. He cornered me in the parking lot asking questions about us. We have to be much more careful now. He. It was Daniel's brother. My brother-in-law Tim. I leaned back in my kitchen chair feeling dizzy and confused. Tim was married to Linda. They had 2 daughters who were so sweet and kind. He seemed so normal, so family-oriented and caring. After Thomas died, Tim had helped me with absolutely everything. The funeral arrangements, legal paperwork, sorting through Thomas's belongings piece by piece. He must have found evidence of the affair during that time, or he had known about it the whole time it was happening. The front door suddenly opened. I barely had enough time to hide Maria's tablet under a couch cushion before my son Marcus walked inside. He had a spare key to my house. He was the only person I trusted enough to have one. "Marcus," I said, standing up quickly from my chair. "What's the matter?" He looked absolutely terrible. His hair was messy and uncombed. His shirt was wrinkled like he had slept in it all night long. He had dark shadows under his eyes like he hadn't slept properly in days. "Mom," he said, dropping down heavily into Thomas's old favorite chair. "I think Maria is cheating on me with someone." The irony of it almost made me want to laugh out loud. Almost. But I kept my face calm and concerned. "What makes you think something like that?" I asked quietly. "She's been distant from me for so long now, maybe even years if I'm being honest. She disappears every Wednesday afternoon without fail. Says she's going to yoga class or meeting friends for lunch. But I looked at our bank account statement yesterday. No charges at the yoga studio anywhere. No restaurant receipts on Wednesdays at all." He looked up at me with tired red eyes that broke my heart. "Mom, am I going crazy? Am I imagining all of this in my head?" "No, sweetheart," I said softly. "You're not crazy at all." He stared directly at me. "You know something, don't you? I found her tablet here," I admitted honestly. I pulled it out from under the couch cushion. "She left it behind this morning when she visited. I shouldn't have looked at it, but I did anyway." I watched different emotions cross his face like clouds. Hope that I was wrong about everything. Fear that I was right. Horror at what he was about to learn and see. "It's bad, isn't it?" He whispered the words. I handed him the tablet carefully. The password is Roberto's birthday, 0815. While he read through all the messages, I went to the kitchen to make tea that neither of us would end up drinking. I heard him gasp out loud, heard him say bad words, heard a sound that might have been crying or anger. When I came back to the living room, his face was completely white. His hands were shaking badly. "Dad," he said in a broken voice that hurt my soul. She was with Dad. My own father and my wife together. How long did this go on? He couldn't finish the question. 7 years that I can see clearly, maybe even longer before that, I said. And after he died. His voice cracked with pain. "Who is T?" "I think it's your Uncle Tim," I answered. "Your father's younger brother." David's face twisted up with pure rage and anger. "That son of a... I'll kill him with my bare hands. I'll kill both of them." "No," I said sharply and firmly. "You won't do anything stupid or violent." "Stupid. Mom, they destroyed absolutely everything we had. Dad betrayed you and me. Maria has been lying straight to my face for years and years. And Tim." He stood up fast, pacing around the room like a caged animal. "What am I supposed to do? Just accept all of this?" "No," I said, keeping my voice calm and steady. "But if you rush into this without thinking, Maria gets half of everything you own in a divorce. She might even get custody of Roberto if she makes you look unstable and violent. Tim will deny everything that happened. There's no solid proof it's actually him. Just a guess based on one letter T." I leaned forward in my chair. "You'll lose your son, your money, and your dignity and respect, while they walk away free without any punishment." He stopped pacing. "So what do you suggest I do then?" "We investigate more carefully. We gather evidence that cannot be questioned or denied. We find out what they really want and why they're doing all of this." I looked at my son with determination. "And then we destroy them. Carefully, quietly. In a way they never see coming until it's too late." Marcus looked at me like he was seeing me for the very first time in his life. "I didn't know you could be this way, Mom." "Neither did I admitted honestly. But they hurt my son deeply. They hurt me. I won't let them get away with any of it." A knock at the door interrupted our conversation. We both froze in place. "Mrs. Henderson," a man's voice I didn't recognize called out. "I'm Detective Carlos Rivera with the Arizona Police Department. I need to talk to you about your husband's death 7 years ago." Marcus and I looked at each other with wide eyes. "The police? No." "Just one moment please," I called out to the door. My mind was spinning in circles. I grabbed Maria's tablet and shoved it into Marcus's hands quickly. "Hide this somewhere safe. Don't let anyone see it at all." He nodded and disappeared down the hallway fast. I smoothed down my sweater, checked my reflection in the hall mirror, and opened the door with a polite smile on my face. A man in his early 50s stood on my porch. He had a badge in his hand and a serious look on his face. "I'm very sorry to bother you, Mrs. Henderson. I'm reopening the investigation into your husband's death. We've received some new information that needs to be checked carefully." "New information?" Kept my voice steady and calm. "My husband died of a heart attack 7 years ago. What kind of information could there be?" "We have reason to believe his death might not have been from natural causes," he said carefully. He pulled out a small notebook. "Can you tell me who had access to your husband's heart medication in the weeks before he died?" The room started spinning around me like a carnival ride. "Murder." He was saying Thomas might have been murdered by someone. And suddenly everything made sense in a horrible way. The affair, the betrayal, the secret messages. All of it took on a much darker meaning than before. "I think," I said slowly and carefully, "that I should call my lawyer before answering questions." Detective Rivera smiled, but it wasn't a friendly or kind smile at all. "That's absolutely your right, Mrs. Henderson. But I should tell you something important first. The person who filed the complaint to reopen this case named you as the main suspect. Detective Rivera sat down in my living room. His notebook was open wide. His eyes looked at everything in my house like he was searching for clues. Marcus had come back from hiding Maria's tablet. His face was calm on the outside, but I could see the worry deep in his eyes. He was playing the concerned son perfectly. I had raised him well. Maybe too well, considering what we had just learned about all the lies in our family. "Mrs. Henderson, I need to ask you about the days before your husband died," Rivera said. "Specifically about his medications and pills." "Thomas had 3 different prescriptions," I said, keeping my voice steady and calm. "Blood pressure pills, something for his heart, and aspirin for his blood. All from Dr. Martinez. Something wrong with that?" "Dr. Martinez moved to Florida 4 years ago," Rivera said, looking through his notebook. "We haven't located his old records yet from storage." "Who had access to those medications besides you?" "Just me and Thomas. They were kept in our bathroom medicine cabinet." "Did you give the pills to him every day?" "No, Thomas took his own pills by himself. He was perfectly capable of doing that." I stopped, remembering something. Wait, that's not completely true actually. The last few months of his life, Maria would help him sometimes when she visited. She used to work as a nurse's helper. She wanted to make absolutely sure he took them correctly and on time. Rivera's pen moved quickly across the page. "Your daughter-in-law had access to his medications regularly then? She visited our house a lot back then. She was trying to help me out." Even as I said those words, I felt puzzle pieces moving in my head, forming a darker picture than I wanted to see. "Mom," Marcus said, his voice tight with tension. "Are you saying Maria might have done something to Dad?" "I'm not saying anything at all," Rivera interrupted firmly. "I'm just gathering facts and information right now." He turned to Marcus. "When did your wife start helping with your father's medications?" "I don't know exactly. Maybe 10 months before he passed away." Marcus looked at me. "She said she wanted to help out. That Mom sometimes forgot to remind Dad to take them on time." "I never forgot, not even once." But Maria had convinced Thomas the First was becoming forgetful and careless, that I needed her help badly. I had been grateful at the time, relieved to have someone help as Thomas got sicker and weaker. Now I wondered what else she had convinced him of with her lies. "Detective, who filed this complaint?" Asked directly. "Who said I killed my husband?" Rivera hesitated. Then he closed his notebook. The complaint was anonymous, but it had very specific details inside. Information about medication changes, about fights between you and your husband, about money reasons for wanting him gone. "What money reasons?" Marcus demanded. "My parents were comfortable but not wealthy at all. According to the complaint, your father had a life insurance policy worth $800,000 with your mother as the only person who would receive the money." The room went completely silent. I felt Marcus staring at me with shock. "I didn't know about any life insurance policy," I said slowly and carefully. "Thomas handled all our money and finances. After he died, I found the normal bank accounts, the house papers, his retirement savings, but no life insurance anywhere." "You didn't receive a payout check?" Rivera asked. His expression changed slightly with interest. "No, absolutely nothing like that." "That's very interesting," Rivera said. "According to the complaint we received, the policy was purchased 5 months before your husband died. The payment came directly from your joint bank account. 5 months before Thomas died. Right when the messages between him and Maria had become more desperate, more intense with feeling. Right when he had written, "I can't keep living this double life anymore. I want to be free. I want to see our bank statements," I said firmly. "From that time period. Can you get those?" "We're already requesting financial records through legal channels," Rivera confirmed. "But if you have access to your accounts yourself." "She does," Marcus said quickly. He pulled out his phone. "Mom, you still use the same bank, right? I can help you look at the old statements online right now." We worked together while Rivera watched us carefully, pulling up records from 7 years ago on the computer. There was clear as day. A payment of $2,300 to Mountain Peak Life Insurance, dated 5 months before Thomas's death. The payment was labeled as medical expenses in our record system. Something that wouldn't have looked strange at all when Thomas was seeing doctors constantly. I never approved this payment, I said. My voice was shaking now with anger. I never even saw this payment on our statements. Who had access to your bank accounts besides you and your husband? Rivera asked. Maria, Marcus said quietly. After Dad's first heart attack, she offered to help manage their bills and payments. Mom was overwhelmed with everything. Maria said it would be one less thing to worry about. Rivera's pen moved faster across the page. So your wife had access to your parents' money, to your father's medications, and according to the complaint, she was present the day your father died? We all were, Marcus protested. It was Sunday family dinner at their house. Dad collapsed right at the table. The ambulance came quickly. They said it was a massive heart attack. There was nothing suspicious about it at all. But there was something suspicious. I remembered that dinner now with completely new eyes. Maria had cooked Thomas's favorite meal. Pot roast with carrots and potatoes. She had been so attentive and caring, making sure he ate everything on his plate, refilling his water glass constantly, giving him his evening pills early because dinner was running late that day. And I remembered something else now, something I had pushed aside at the time as grief making me confused and upset. His pills, I said slowly, my mind working. That night at dinner, Thomas said his pills looked different, smaller than usual. Maria told him the pharmacy had changed manufacturers, that it was the same exact medicine, just from a different company making it. Rivera leaned forward in his chair. Did you verify that information? No, I trusted her completely. She was a nurse's helper. Why would I question her about medicine? Mom, Marcus's voice cracked with emotion. Are you saying Maria killed Dad on purpose? I'm saying we need to find out what was actually in those pills, I said, looking at Rivera. Is it too late for an autopsy after 7 years? After 7 years, testing would be extremely hard, but not completely impossible if we exhume the body. Rivera stood up. Mrs. Henderson, I need you to understand something clearly. Right now, you're still a person of interest in this investigation. The complaint names you specifically. Includes details that suggest someone on the inside with knowledge. If someone is trying to frame you, we need to figure out who and why they're doing it. After he left our house, Marcus and I sat in heavy, thick silence. Outside, the summer sun was shining bright through the clouds, making everything look clean and fresh and new. But nothing felt clean about what we had discovered today. We need to talk to Maria right now, Marcus finally said. Confront her with all of this evidence. No, I said firmly. If Maria filed that complaint, if she's setting me up for murder, then confronting her will just make her more careful and smart. She'll destroy evidence, create alibis, maybe even disappear completely. Then what do we do instead? We follow her tomorrow, I said. Wednesday afternoon. The message said she was meeting T at the lake house. We need to know what they're planning together. Marcus looked uncertain about this. Mom, if they're dangerous people, then we stay hidden and careful, I interrupted. We watch from a distance. We record their conversation with a camera. Take photographs. We gather evidence that proves exactly what they did. I grabbed my light jacket from the hook by the door. Your father's death might not have been from his heart failing. That life insurance money went somewhere. Someone is trying to make me look guilty of murder. I need to know why. We took Marcus's car the next afternoon. We left mine at my house in case Maria drove by to check if I was home. The GPS numbers led us north on Highway 10, then onto smaller back roads that wound through thick forests. My phone guided us to a dirt road marked only by a faded wooden sign with peeling paint. The lake house sat 1 mile down that bumpy road, hidden from the main highway. A medium wooden building with a blue roof and a deck facing the mountains in the distance. Lights glowed warm in the windows. That's Maria's car, Marcus whispered, pointing to the white SUV parked next to a red truck. And that's Uncle Tim's truck right there. We parked further back behind the trees, hidden from view. We walked quietly toward the lake house. The April air was cold and crisp. Our breath made little clouds in the evening light. Through the house's window, I could see Maria and Tim sitting at a wooden table, wine glasses in their hands, looking relaxed and comfortable like old friends. Marcus had his phone out recording video of everything. I stood next to him, my heart pounding like a drum, watching my brother-in-law and daughter-in-law toast each other with their wine. "Can't believe the old woman bought our story completely," Tim was saying. His voice carried through the thin wooden walls. "The detective is eating it up like candy. Anonymous tip, specific details, financial motive spelled out. They'll arrest her within the week for sure. She's so trusting and naive," Maria laughed. "A cold sound without any warmth. Always has been her whole life. Even Thomas said she was easy to fool. That's why it was so easy to." She stopped talking suddenly. Tim had raised his hand up fast, looking toward the window where we stood. Had he seen us hiding? We dropped down quickly, pressing our backs against the wooden wall. My knees screamed with pain. But I didn't dare move a muscle or make a sound. Marcus's hand gripped my arm tight. Both of us frozen completely, barely breathing at all. "Thought I saw something move out there," Tim said inside. "Probably just a deer or rabbit," Maria replied. "You're getting paranoid about everything. No one knows about this place at all. Even if Marcus suspected something was wrong, he'd never find it here. He's too busy being the perfect son and husband. Just like his father was the perfect husband to Helen. Until he wasn't anymore," Tim said. They both laughed together. The sound made my blood run ice cold. They hadn't just had an affair together. They had planned something terrible, something evil. "How much longer until the insurance money pays out?" Tim asked. The policy had a 4-year waiting period for suspicious deaths that ended 8 months ago. Once they arrest Helen for Thomas's murder, the insurance company will have to pay the full amount. No basis to deny the claim at all. Maria swirled her wine in the glass. "Once they arrest Helen, I'll act completely shocked and devastated. The wrong daughter-in-law. Heartbroken that her mother-in-law could do such an evil thing. The insurance company will pay the claim directly to Thomas's estate. And I control the estate since his will was never properly updated after he died. And I'm listed as co-executor of the estate," Tim finished. "We split it 60-40 like we planned from the start. Minus Marcus's small portion unfortunately, but we can work around that easily." Marcus's grip on my arm was so tight it hurt. Through the window, I watched him stand up and walk behind Maria's chair, his hands on her shoulders. "You're absolutely brilliant," he said. Using Thomas's paranoia about Helen, making him think she was telling people she wished he would die soon. "That was pure genius on your part. He was so easy to manipulate once we started," Maria said. "Especially after I told him Helen was complaining to her friends about him constantly. He actually believed his own wife hated him and wanted him gone. It made everything so much easier to do. I had never said those things to anyone, never even thought them in my heart. But Thomas had pulled away from me completely in those final months. Had been angry and distant and cold. I thought it was because he was sick and scared of dying. Now I understood the real truth. Maria had been poisoning his mind against me, making him vulnerable and isolated, turning him against the person who loved him most. And the pills?" Tim asked. "Did you tell us the truth?" "Digitalis," Maria said simply. "Easy to get when you know the right people in Mexico." Mixed it with his regular heart medication for 4 weeks before the big dinner. Built up in his system slowly and quietly. Then that night, a final large dose in his food. Enough to trigger cardiac arrest and death. The autopsy showed heart attack. Exactly what everyone expected for someone with his condition and history. No one even thought to look for poison. Until now, Tim said. If that detective gets smart and orders the body dug up. She won't, Maria interrupted confidently. She has her suspect already, her motive, her timeline. Helen Henderson, the neglected wife who found out about her husband's affair and decided to cash in on his life insurance money. Perfect story. Tim pulled Maria to her feet and into his arms. 8 more months and we'll be rich beyond our dreams. 10 months and we'll be together openly. And Helen will spend the rest of her life in prison for a murder we committed together. They kissed. Marcus turned away fast. His face twisted with pain and rage. He had heard enough. We both had. We crept back to the car in complete silence. Once inside, Marcus started the engine. His hands were shaking badly. "They killed him," he whispered. "Maria murdered my father and Tim helped her do it. And they're framing you, Mom." "They made a terrible mistake though," I said quietly. My voice was hard and cold like ice. "They told us everything we needed to know. We have it all recorded. We have evidence now. We take this recording to the police immediately," Marcus said, pulling onto the main road. "We show them everything. Tell them the whole story." "No," I said firmly. "Not yet." He stared at me with confusion. "Mom, they murdered Dad. They're trying to send you to prison for life. We have to act now." "Marcus, think carefully," I interrupted. "That recording was made without them knowing. Arizona is a two-party consent state for recordings. A good lawyer could get it thrown out of court completely. And the tablet messages. I shouldn't have kept it without her knowing. That could be called theft and invasion of privacy. So what do we do then?" I looked out at the dark road ahead, at the shadows from the mountains pressing in around us. I felt something cold and hard settle deep in my chest. "We make them confess properly," I said. "Legally, in a way that cannot be dismissed or explained away by lawyers." I turned to Marcus. "And we do it in front of witnesses who cannot be bought off or scared into silence." "How do we do that?" "Your father's estate," I said. The plan was forming clearly as I spoke the words. It was never properly settled because of the missing life insurance policy. We need to have a formal reading of the will. Bring everyone together in one room. You, Maria, Tim, the lawyer, maybe even Detective Rivera. And then what happens? "Then we spring our trap," I said. "But first, we need to find that insurance money because wherever it went, that's where we'll find the final piece of evidence we need to destroy them completely." Marcus drove faster. The headlights cut through the darkness ahead. Behind us, the lake house lights grew smaller and smaller. But I knew we'd be going back there. The war had just started and I was going to win. We spent that whole night in Marcus's office, surrounded by 7 years of financial records from my house. Bank statements, credit card bills, insurance papers, everything Thomas had left behind when he died. Maria was supposedly at her sister's house overnight. That's what she had texted Marcus. More likely, she was at the lake house with Tim celebrating their victory that hadn't happened yet. "Here," Marcus said, pointing at his computer screen. It was 3:15 in the morning. "Mom, look at this carefully." The life insurance policy application, buried deep in a folder of scanned documents, Thomas's signature at the bottom of the page. But something looked very wrong about it. The letters were too perfect, too careful and neat. Thomas's handwriting had been messy and quick. Sloppy, the writing of a man who had spent 30 years filling out forms at his hardware store. "That's not his real signature," I said with complete certainty. "Maria forged it." "Can we prove that to people?" "Maybe if we find samples of Thomas's real signature. Have an expert compare them side by side." I rubbed my tired eyes. "But that takes time we don't have. Once that detective finishes investigating, she'll arrest me. Then everything becomes much harder. Finding evidence from jail, legal battles, years of fighting in court." Marcus leaned back in his chair. He looked at me strangely. "You've changed, Mom. You're different than you were yesterday morning." "I'm fighting for my life," I said simply. "And for justice for your father. Whatever else Thomas did wrong. He didn't deserve to die like that. Poisoned slowly, manipulated, betrayed by people he trusted. Do you forgive him for having the affair?" The question surprised me. Did I forgive Thomas? He had been weak, foolish, easy prey for a younger woman's attention and lies. But Maria had been calculated and predatory. She had gotten close to our family through Marcus, then seduced a lonely, aging man who felt invisible to his wife. "I don't know if I forgive him," I admitted honestly. "But that's a question for later. Right now we focus on surviving this." My phone buzzed loudly. A text from a number I didn't recognize at all. "Stop investigating or your grandson pays the price." Ice flooded through my entire body. Marcus, where's Roberto right now? At Maria's mom's house. Maria took him there yesterday. Why? He saw my face. Saw the phone screen. What is it, Mom? I showed him the message. He went pale white. He immediately called his former mother-in-law. The conversation was short and frantic. He's fine, Marcus said, relief clear in his voice. Still sleeping soundly. I told her not to let Roberto out of her sight. Not to let Maria pick him up without calling me first to verify. Another text appeared on my screen. We know what you found at the lake house. Destroy the recording and forget everything or the boy has an accident. You have 24 hours. They had seen us at the lake house or guessed we were there somehow. Either way, we had badly underestimated how desperate they really were. That's it, Marcus said, his voice shaking with rage. I'm calling the police right this second. We tell them absolutely everything. And they take Roberto while the police investigate. I interrupted. Marcus, think. They're cornered now, desperate and dangerous. That makes them unpredictable. If we move too fast, if we scare them, then what? What's your plan then? He demanded. Because right now my son is being threatened by a murderer who happens to be his mother. The words hung in the air between us. Jessica was Roberto's mother. Whatever monster she had become, she had given birth to my grandson, raised him for 12 years. The courts would remember that. So would Roberto. We need leverage, I said slowly. Something so damning they can't threaten us anymore. Can't run away. Can't do anything except confess to everything. Like what exactly? Like the insurance money, I said. Tim said he's the co-executor of Thomas's estate, that the money would go through him first. But the policy lists me as the person who receives the money. So where did it actually go? Marcus pulled up the insurance company's website on the computer. Logging into the account using information from the scanned application we found. Took 6 tries to guess the password correctly. Maria had used Roberto's name and birthday together. Rob0815. The policy was active and current. Premium paid automatically every month from our joint account. A withdrawal I had never noticed among the hundreds of medical bills during Thomas's final year. But the person listed to receive the money had been changed 4 months after Thomas's death. Not to me like it should be. To a trust fund. The Thomas Henderson Memorial Trust. Managed by Timothy Henderson as trustee. That's Tim, Marcus breathed. Dad's brother. He set up a trust in Dad's name without telling anyone. Probably told the insurance company he was handling the estate properly. Can we see the trust documents anywhere? Not without a court order, Marcus said. But his fingers were flying across the keyboard fast. Tim filed the trust paperwork with the county clerk. That's public record. I can pull it up right now. The document appeared on screen. The trust was established for the benefit of Thomas Henderson's heirs with Timothy Henderson as sole trustee with complete control over all the money. In simple terms, Tim controlled everything. He could do whatever he wanted with it. This is fraud, I said. The insurance company thinks the money went to Thomas's estate properly, but Tim sent it to a trust he controls completely. A trust that probably has no money in it except that insurance payment, Marcus added. He kept scrolling down. Look at the payment schedule here. Tim is allowed to take trustee fees up to 30% of the trust money. Maria is listed as a special advisor entitled to 50%. That leaves 20% for Thomas's actual family, I said quietly. You and me. They were going to give us just enough to avoid questions and suspicion, Marcus said. His jaw was tight with anger. Keep the rest for themselves and live happily. I'm calling Tim right this second. No, I said. Let them think we're scared. Let them think the threat worked on us. An idea was forming in my mind. Dangerous but necessary. What if we could get them to move the money? Force them to do something that proves their guilt beyond doubt. How? By making them panic completely. By threatening what they care about most, each other. I spent the next hour writing a very careful message. Not from my phone or Marcus's. We drove to an all-night diner and used their public internet to create a fake email account. Then I sent the message to Tim's personal email. I know about the Dil'S poison. I know about the lake house. I know about the insurance fraud. You have 24 hours to transfer $300,000 to the account below, or I go to the police with evidence that Maria murdered Thomas. She goes to prison. You go free. No choice. Concerned friend. I included a cryptocurrency account number that Marcus had set up. Impossible to trace back to us. You're blackmailing him? Marcus asked, looking shocked. I'm making him choose between money and Maria, I said. If he pays, we have proof he knows about the murder. If he doesn't pay but panics, he'll contact Maria immediately. Maybe do something stupid and revealing. Either way, they make a mistake we can use. And if he calls the police instead? He won't, because going to the police means admitting he knows about a murder, that he's been hiding it, that he committed insurance fraud. I looked at my son. We're forcing them into the open where they have to act. The response came 90 minutes later, not to the fake email, to my personal phone. Tim's voice on a call. Helen, we need to talk immediately, just you and me. Tomorrow at noon, the lake house. Come alone or Marcus's son disappears forever. I met Marcus's eyes across the diner table. The trap was working, but it was also closing around us dangerously. I'll be there, I told Tim, my voice steady. Good, Tim said. And Helen, don't be stupid. You're an old woman. You can't win this fight. He hung up. Marcus was already shaking his head firmly. No, absolutely not. You're not going there alone. They've killed once already. Which is exactly why you're not coming with me, I interrupted. If something happens to me, you're Roberto's only protection. You need to stay with him. Keep him safe. Mom. Marcus, listen carefully. I'm going to wear a recording device, the legal kind with two-party consent. I'll tell Tim I'm recording at the start. Everything he says will be allowed in court. And if he kills you after you tell him you're recording, he won't, because I'm going to make him an offer he absolutely cannot refuse. I pulled out a document I had written earlier, a handwritten confession signed and dated. I'm going to confess to Thomas's murder. Tell them I did it, that I knew about the affair and poisoned Thomas in a jealous rage. I'll say I'm willing to take the blame and go to prison quietly. Why would you do that? Because it gives Tim exactly what he wants. Me in prison. Out of the way. But in exchange I want two things. The insurance money returned to Thomas's estate and Maria out of your life. Quiet divorce. No custody fight over Roberto. Marcus stared at me. That's completely crazy. You'd confess to murder. A false confession isn't a crime. And once Tim agrees, once he admits on tape that there was a murder, that Maria poisoned Thomas, that they committed insurance fraud, then I have everything I need. I gripped his hand tight. I take back my confession, reveal the recording, and we have them trapped. It's too dangerous, Mom. It's the only way, I said. Trust me, sweetheart. I've been underestimated my whole life. By Thomas, by Maria, by Tim. Let them keep thinking that until it's too late. The next morning I visited Detective Rivera at the police station. I told him I had received threats. Showed him the messages about Roberto. He was immediately concerned. Wanted to assign protection. I think I know who sent them, I said carefully. I'm meeting them today at noon to talk. I wanted you to know in case something happens to me. Mrs. Henderson, if you're in danger. I'll be recording the conversation, I interrupted. Two-party consent, fully legal. If I'm right about who's threatening me, the recording will prove it. Rivera looked doubtful but nodded. Where's this meeting? I gave him the address of the lake house. Watched him write it down carefully. If I don't call you by 1 o'clock, something's wrong, I said. The recording device will have GPS tracking. You'll be able to find me. It wasn't completely true. The recording device Marcus had bought that morning didn't have GPS tracking, but Rivera didn't need to know that. I just needed him to come looking if things went bad. At 11:30, Marcus drove me to a spot half a mile from the lake house. He helped me test the recording device carefully. A small unit clipped inside my shirt. The microphone hidden in my collar. Promise me you'll be careful, he said. His eyes were red from no sleep. Promise, I said. I kissed his cheek gently. Keep Roberto safe. If this goes wrong, if I don't come back, the memory stick in Thomas's gardening book has everything. Give it to the police. Tell them the whole story. Mom, I love you so much. I love you too, Marcus. You've been a wonderful son. I'm proud of you. I squeezed his hand. Now let me go finish this. I walked the last half-mile through the woods. My knees hurt with every step. The April sun was bright but cold. Leaves crunched under my feet. Ahead I could see the lake house. Tim's truck parked outside. As I got closer, the door opened wide. Tim stood there, smiling, confident. Behind him, I could see Maria sitting at the table. Her expression was cold and calculating. Helen, Tim said warmly, like I had come for a friendly visit. Come inside. We have a lot to talk about. Climb the porch steps. My heart was hammering. My hand touched the recording device hidden under my jacket. Before we start, I said clearly, I want you to know I'm recording this conversation for my own protection. Tim's smile didn't change at all. Of course, we have nothing to hide. But as I stepped inside and saw Maria's face, cold, calculating, triumphant, I realized I had made a terrible mistake. On the table in front of her sat a gun. Actually, Helen, Maria said softly. You're not recording anything. That device you're wearing, it's been blocked. We've been listening to your phone calls, reading your emails. We know everything you planned. Tim closed the door behind me. The lock clicked like the sound of doom. Sit down, Maria ordered. We have a new deal for you. And this time you don't get to say no. I stood in the middle of the lake house. My hands were steady even though there was a gun on the wooden table. 70 years of living had taught me that panic was the enemy of survival. Maria and Tim expected fear from me. Instead, I gave them curiosity. How long have you been listening to us? I asked, my voice calm. Since yesterday afternoon, Tim laughed. Clearly pleased with himself. After you left the lake house, I put a tracker on Marcus's car. Cloned your phone remotely using software. Surprisingly easy when you know the right people. We heard every conversation, read every email, watched you plan your little trap. Then you know I told Detective Rivera where I'd be today, I said. He's expecting my call in 1 hour. Actually, he's not, Maria said smoothly. I called him this morning from your phone. Cancelled the meeting. Said you weren't feeling well. He was very understanding. Maria stood up, walking around the table, keeping distance between us. You didn't think this through, Helen. You're smart, I'll give you that. Smarter than Thomas ever was. But you're old. You're alone. And you're outmatched. Sit down, Tim ordered, pointing to a chair. I sat down, noting the room layout as I did. 1 door, 2 windows, both visible from where Tim and Maria stood. They had positioned themselves carefully. Tim blocking the exit. Maria with easy access to the gun. Here's what's going to happen, Maria said. Her nurse voice taking on that patient tone she probably used with sick patients. You're going to write a confession, a real one. You killed Thomas because you found out about his affair with me. You poisoned him with digitalis you got from. He paused, thinking. From your sister's prescription. She had a heart condition, didn't she? Died 5 years ago. My sister Margaret. They had researched everything about my family. You'll confess to the murder, Maria continued. Then you'll write a suicide note. Overwhelmed with guilt, unable to live with what you did. Facing prison, you drove out here to Thomas's lake house, the place where he had been happy, where he had found love. And you ended your life. With what? Yes. I don't have any pills with me. Tim pulled a bottle from his jacket. Sleeping pills. The same ones you take every night. We got them from your medicine cabinet 3 days ago. More than enough in here to do the job. They had been in my house again. Violated my home again, just like they had violated my marriage, my trust, my family. And if I refuse? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Then we shoot you and make it look like suicide anyway, Tim said flatly. But that's Messier, raises more questions. This way is cleaner. You confess, you die quietly. Case closes. Marcus inherits everything. Maria gets half in the divorce eventually and life goes on. Except Marcus knows the truth, I pointed out. He heard your confession at this lake house. He has Maria's tablet, the message history, all the evidence. Had Maria corrected. Past tense. I remotely erased my old tablet yesterday morning. Every message, every photo gone. And that recording you made, inadmissible in court, just like you told Marcus yourself. You did us a favor actually, explaining all the legal problems with secret recordings. She was right. I had been so focused on gathering evidence legally that I had shown them every mistake to avoid. Marcus will never stop looking into this, I said. He knows you killed his father. Marcus is emotional, impulsive, Maria said dismissively. He'll grieve for you. He'll suspect me for a while, but without proof, what can he do? Eventually he'll move on. People always do. And Roberto needs his mother. The mention of my grandson sent fear through me. But I kept my face neutral. You'd really do this, I said. Kill your husband's mother in front of each other. We've done worse, Tim said with a shrug. Thomas was harder actually. Took weeks of careful dosing, monitoring his symptoms. This is almost kind by comparison. Besides, Maria added, moving closer. You're not really Marcus's mother anymore, are you? Not the woman he knew. That woman died when she found out about Thomas's affair. The person sitting here now is bitter, vengeful, unrecognizable. Marcus will mourn the mother he remembers. Not the woman you've become. Her words were designed to hurt, to make me doubt myself. But I had learned something these past terrible days. Change wasn't weakness. The naive, trusting Helen was gone. In her place sat someone harder, smarter, more dangerous than Maria could imagine. I needed to stall, to think. Detective Rivera might not be coming, but Marcus knew where I was. He'd wait for my call. And when it didn't come, what are you thinking about? Maria asked sharply. David, he's busy right now. We sent him a text from your phone saying you needed him to pick up Roberto immediately. That there was an emergency at school. He's probably halfway there by now. She smiled. Your grandson is perfectly safe, by the way. No emergency, just Marcus running around panicking while we handle things here. They had thought of everything. Or so they believed. You're wondering if there's a way out, Tim said, reading my expression. There isn't. We've planned this for years, Helen. Years. Even before Thomas died, we knew you'd be a problem eventually. You're too observant, too stubborn. Thomas was supposed to change his will. Leave everything to a trust we controlled, but the old fool kept putting it off. Said he wanted to wait until after the holidays, after Roberto's birthday, after the spring. So you killed him before he could, I said quietly. Understanding clicking into place. You killed him before he could change his mind about anything. We sped things up, Maria admitted. Thomas was getting sentimental, talking about making things right with you, about confessing everything. He was weak. We couldn't risk it. She picked up the gun, checked it casually, set it back down. The message was clear. They were comfortable with violence. Had done it before. Write the confession, Tim ordered, pushing paper and pen across the table. We don't have all day. I picked up the pen, but instead of writing, I looked directly at Maria. Did you ever love Marcus? Even a little? The question caught her off guard. What does that matter? I'm about to die. Humor a dying woman's curiosity. Maria was quiet for a moment, then shrugged. Marcus was a means to an end. Access to your family, Thomas, to this comfortable life. He was sweet, easy to control, still is. And Thomas was pathetic, she said with disgust. A vain old man desperate to feel young again. He actually believed I loved him. Believed he was special. She laughed. The only person I've ever loved is Tim. We've been together since college. Everything else has been an act. Even Roberto. The question came out harder than I meant. Roberto was necessary, Maria said. A child to cement my place in the family, to give me leverage. He's useful. Hearing her talk about my grandson like a tool made something snap inside me, but I kept my voice level, my hands steady. One more question, I said. The anonymous complaint to the police. That was your backup plan. Insurance, Tim confirmed. If you got too close to the truth, we'd make you look guilty. Frame you for Thomas's murder before you could figure out what really happened. The complaint has just enough truth to seem real. Your access to his medications, your money motive, your opportunity. Very thorough, I said. Then I looked at the paper. I assume you want this confession detailed, believable. Extremely detailed, Maria said. Names, dates, methods, enough that no one will question it. I started to write, my handwriting steady, but I wasn't writing a confession. I, Helen Henderson, I wrote clearly, being of sound mind, do hereby state the following as true testimony. Behind me, neither Maria nor Tim could see the words. They were too far away, too confident. On April 18, 2025, I came to the lake house on Crystal Lake owned by Timothy Henderson. Present were Timothy Henderson and Maria Henderson, who threatened me with death unless I confessed to murdering my husband Thomas Henderson. I kept writing, kept them talking. Tell me about the Dil'S. Where did you get it? Through a contact in Mexico, Maria said, distracted by her own cleverness. Ordered it online. Shipped to a post office box under a fake name. Untraceable. I wrote it all down. Every word. And the insurance fraud. The trust. That was my idea, Tim said proudly. Set up the trust. Had Thomas's will drawn up naming me executor. He signed it thinking it was a property transfer for the lake house. Forged his signature on the insurance application. Simple when you know what you're doing. Brilliant, I murmured. Still writing. I was documenting everything, their confession, their methods, their motives. Not a suicide note but a testimony. And if they killed me, this paper would tell the truth even if my voice couldn't. Are you almost done? Maria asked impatiently. This is taking too long. Almost, I said. Then, as I wrote the final lines, I made my move. I had noticed something they missed. A small detail that gave me one chance. The gun on the table was facing Maria, not me. When she had set it down after checking it, she had placed it carelessly. Handle toward the middle of the table. Not close enough for me to grab, but close enough to knock away. One last thing, I said, looking up at Maria. You should know I recorded something that will destroy you. Something you didn't find, didn't erase, didn't anticipate. You're lying, Maria said. But uncertainty crossed her face. Thomas's lawyer, I continued calmly. Mr. Richardson. I sent him a sealed envelope 4 days ago with instructions to open it if anything happened to me. Inside is a full account of everything I discovered. Copies of your messages, financial records, a detailed timeline of Thomas's murder. 'Twas a lie. I had done no such thing. But Maria didn't know that. You're lying, Tim said, but he looked at Maria, doubt creeping in. Am I? I smiled coldly. You've been so busy tracking my phone, my emails, my obvious moves. Did you think to watch my physical mail, my in-person meetings? I'm 70 years old. I know how to do things without leaving digital footprints. Maria lunged for the gun. I lunged for the table. My hand hit the table's edge, flipping it upward with strength I didn't know I had. Adrenaline, fear, desperate power. The gun flew off, hit the floor across the room. Papers scattered everywhere. Maria stumbled backward. Tim rushed forward, but I was already moving toward the door, faster than a 70-year-old woman should move. My hand closed on the doorknob. Of course it was locked. Tim grabbed my arm, yanked me backward. I spun, using his momentum against him, a move my brother had taught me 55 years ago when I asked about self-defense. My elbow connected with his stomach hard. He gasped. Me go. Maria had the gun now, raising it with shaking hands. Don't move, she ordered, her voice high and panicked. Don't. The window behind her exploded inward. Marcus crashed through in a shower of glass, his shoulder hitting Maria's back. The gun fired, deafening in the small space. The bullet buried itself in the wall. Marcus wrestled the weapon away from her. His face cut and bleeding from the glass, but his grip was strong. Get outside, Mom, he shouted. Well. Behind him, through the broken window, I saw more people coming. Detective Rivera. 2 uniformed officers, all running toward the lake house. Tim tried to run. I stuck my foot out. Petty move but satisfying. He crashed to the floor hard. Within seconds, officers were through the door. Weapons drawn, shouting commands. Everything happened fast after that. Maria and Tim were handcuffed. Read their rights. Their protests and threats fading into legal language and official procedure. The confession I had written was carefully bagged as evidence. Marcus's phone showed the recording he had made through the broken window. Every word Maria and Tim had said. Every admission of guilt. Detective Rivera looked at me with a mix of respect and frustration. "Mrs. Henderson, you could have been killed." "But I wasn't," I said simply. My hands were shaking now. Delayed reaction, but I stayed standing. "And now you have everything you need. The recording through the window is legally allowed," she confirmed. Marcus was on public property. The window was already open enough to hear clearly. "And you had already told them you were recording." They had no expectation of privacy. I looked at my son, my brave, foolish, wonderful son who had crashed through a window to save me. "I told you to stay with Roberto." "I took him to the police station first," Marcus said, grinning through the blood on his face. "Told Rivera everything. Played her the lake house recording from before. She agreed it might not work in court, but it was enough for probable cause. We've been outside for 40 minutes listening, waiting for the right moment. You heard everything. Every single word," he said. His expression hardened as he looked at Maria being led to a police car, including what she said about Roberto. That, I knew, was the wound that would take longest to heal. Not the betrayal of the affair, not even the murder, but knowing that Roberto had been nothing more than a tool to his own mother. As they loaded Maria into the police car, she looked at me through the window. No guilt, no fear, just cold calculation. "Even now you won't win," she called out. "I'll get the best lawyers." The door slammed, cutting off her threats. Tim was quieter, defeated. As they put him in a separate car, he said, "We would have gotten away with it." "No," I said loud enough for him to hear. "You wouldn't have, because you made the same mistake everyone makes. You underestimated an old woman." Detective Rivera smiled grimly. "Mrs. Henderson, I need you to come to the station. Give a full statement." "Course. But first," I turned to Marcus. "Call Maria's mom. Tell her to keep Roberto there tonight. He doesn't need to know about this yet. Let him have one more day of being a kid before his world changes." Marcus nodded, tears in his eyes. As I rode in Detective Rivera's car, not arrested, just transported, I looked out at the April afternoon, at the mountains in the distance, at the trees budding with new spring leaves. Thomas had died because of lies born in that lake house. But today the truth had finally won. The war wasn't over. There would be trials, legal battles, family pain to work through. But the most important battle had been won. I had survived. And in surviving, I had become something I never expected. Dangerous. 3 months later, I stood in my kitchen on a warm July morning, watching hummingbirds at the feeder outside my window. The house was quiet, peaceful in a way it hadn't been for years. Maybe not since before Maria entered our lives. The trials had been quick, surprisingly so. Maria and Tim's lawyers had told them to accept plea deals once they saw the evidence was too strong to fight. Marcus's recording from outside the lake house. My written testimony. The financial records of the fake trust. The forged insurance documents. It all painted a clear picture. Maria pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and insurance fraud. 25 years to life. Tim pleaded guilty to being an accomplice to murder, fraud, and conspiracy. 15 years. Both were already in prison in separate facilities. Appeals denied. The life insurance money had been recovered. Returned to Thomas's estate, to me as his legal widow. $800,000 I had never wanted. Paid for with my husband's life. I had put most of it in a trust for Roberto's college education. Kept enough to maintain the house and make sure I wouldn't burden Marcus in my old age. The real victory hadn't been in the courtrooms. It had been in the quiet moments after, watching my family slowly, painfully start to heal. I heard footsteps on the porch. The sound of sneakers on wood. The door opened and Roberto came in. His cheeks flushed from playing outside. His eyes bright. Grandma, you should see the butterfly I found by the garden. It's huge and orange. That sounds beautiful, I said, smiling at him. At 13, he was caught between being a child and becoming a teenager. Struggling with everything that had happened, the truth about his mother, the divorce, the criminal trials. It had nearly broken him, but children were strong, stronger than adults realized. Marcus followed his son inside, carrying bags from the farmer's market. He had moved back to my house temporarily while he figured out his next steps. The house where he grew up had become his safe place again, and mine had become less lonely with him here. Roberto, go wash up before lunch, Marcus said. The automatic parent command that made me smile. He was a good father, better than he knew. After Roberto went upstairs, Marcus set the bags on the counter. He looked at me with an expression I had come to know, the one that meant he needed to talk. Mom, I got a call from Maria's lawyer this morning. My hands paused over the vegetables I was washing. What did she want? Maria wants to see Roberto. She's claiming her rights as his mother. That keeping them apart is cruel punishment. The nerve of it took my breath away. After everything, the murder, the lies, the cold admission that Roberto had been nothing but a tool. She wanted access to him. What does Roberto want? Yes, because that was what mattered. He says he never wants to see her again. He's angry, hurt, he feels betrayed. Marcus slumped into a chair. But what if he changes his mind later? What if he resents me for keeping them apart? I sat across from him, taking his hand. Marcus, you're his father. You make the decision that protects him now. Today. If he changes his mind when he's older, when he's ready, then you'll support him. But right now, he's a child who just learned his mother is a murderer. He needs stability, safety, time to heal. The lawyer says Maria is getting therapy, that she's sorry for what she did. Maria is a sociopath, I said firmly. I sat across from her in that lake house, looked into her eyes. There was nothing there, Marcus. No real feeling, no genuine guilt, only calculation. Whatever she's telling her lawyers, whatever show she's putting on for parole boards she'll face someday, it's not real. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. How did you know before all this came out? Did you ever suspect she wasn't who she seemed? It was a question I had asked myself many times over the past months. Had there been signs? Had I missed warnings that could have saved Thomas? I thought she was cold sometimes, I admitted. Too perfect, too controlled. But I thought it was just personality differences, that she was younger, more modern. I thought I was being judgmental, old-fashioned. I squeezed his hand. We see what we expect to see, what we want to see. Maria was good at being what people needed her to be. Dad saw someone who made him feel young, Marcus said quietly. I saw someone who completed my family. You saw someone helping take care of your husband when you felt overwhelmed. And Roberto saw his mother, I added. The cruelest part. Children should be able to trust their parents completely. Maria stole that from him. Upstairs, we could hear Roberto moving around, the creak of floorboards in what used to be Marcus's childhood bedroom. He's doing better, Marcus said. The therapist says he's handling everything in a healthy way. He paused. But Mom, I'm so angry at Maria, at Tim, at Dad for starting this whole mess. Some days I can barely function. That's normal, I assured him. Anger is part of grief. You're mourning multiple losses. Your father, your marriage, your trust in people you loved. That takes time. How are you so calm about it? Dad cheated on you, lied to you for years. Doesn't that make you furious? Oh, it does, I said. I felt the familiar burn of betrayal in my chest. I'm angry at Thomas every day. Angry at his weakness, his vanity, his willingness to destroy our family for an affair. Paused, searching for the right words. But I'm also free. Free from the weight of a marriage built on lies. Free from wondering why he seemed distant, why he stopped really seeing me. Now I know. And knowing hurts, but it's better than the confusion I lived with. Do you miss him? I miss who I thought he was, I admitted. I miss the man I married, the partner I believed I had. But that man might never have really existed. Not completely. The real Thomas was someone who could be seduced, who could lie, who could betray the people who loved him most. I looked at my son. So no, I don't miss him. I mourn what I lost. But I don't want it back. Marcus nodded slowly. I feel the same about Maria. The woman I married, if she ever existed, I loved her. But the woman who killed Dad, who used our son as a bargaining chip, who would have let you die? I don't know that person. Never did. We sat in comfortable silence. The kind that only comes from shared pain and deep understanding. Outside, the summer sun shone bright. Flowers bloomed in the garden. Life continued. Grandma, Dad, Roberto called from upstairs. Can we have ice cream after lunch? Absolutely, I called back, standing and moving to the counter. Come help me make sandwiches. As I prepared lunch, Roberto chattering about summer camp and his friends and the book he was reading, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not happiness exactly. The wounds were too fresh for that. The losses too deep. Peace. The calm that comes from knowing the truth. From surviving what seemed unsurvivable. From standing on solid ground after years of walking on lies. That evening, after dinner and a movie, after Roberto had gone to bed and Marcus had gone to his room to make calls to lawyers and therapists, I walked through the house alone. I touched the furniture Thomas had bought, looked at the photos on the walls, pictures from happier times, or at least times I had believed were happy. I had removed the photos of Maria, but kept the ones with Roberto. He deserved to remember the good parts of his childhood, however complicated they had become. In Thomas's den, I found the box I had been avoiding for months. His personal belongings from the hospital, his wallet, his wedding ring. I opened it slowly, forcing myself to face these last pieces of him. The wedding ring gleamed in the lamplight. Gold, simple, engraved with our wedding date. I had stopped wearing mine, had locked it away in a drawer. His deserved the same. But underneath the ring I found something unexpected. A letter, sealed, yellowed slightly with age. My name on the envelope in Thomas's handwriting. The real handwriting, messy and rushed. Not the careful forgery Maria had used. My hands trembled as I opened it. My dearest Helen, it read. If you're reading this, I'm gone. And I'm a coward for not saying this to your face. I've done terrible things. Betrayed you in ways I can't explain or excuse. I started something I couldn't stop, and it poisoned everything good in my life. You deserved better than me. You deserved honesty, loyalty, respect. Instead, I gave you lies and took your trust for granted. I let vanity and weakness destroy the best thing I ever had, your love. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know that whatever happened, whatever you discover, you were never the problem. The problem was always me. My cowardice, my selfishness, my inability to appreciate what I had until it was too late. You are remarkable, Helen. Stronger than I ever was, kinder than I deserved, wiser than I gave you credit for. I hope you find peace after I'm gone. I hope you find happiness. You've earned it 1,000 times over. I'm sorry for everything, but mostly I'm sorry I wasn't the man you believed I was. Thomas. The letter blurred as tears filled my eyes. The first I had cried for Thomas since learning the truth. Not tears of grief for losing him, but tears for the waste of it all. The wasted years, the wasted love, the wasted potential of what we could have been if he had been honest. If he had been brave enough to face his problems instead of running to Maria. He had known he was dying. The letter had been written weeks before his death, hidden where I would find it eventually. Had he suspected Maria was poisoning him, or had he simply known his heart was failing and wanted to confess before it was too late? I'd never know, and maybe it didn't matter. I folded the letter carefully, placed it back in the box. It was closure of a sort, an acknowledgement from beyond the grave that I hadn't been crazy, hadn't been paranoid, hadn't been the cold, neglectful wife Maria had painted me as. But it changed nothing about what had happened or what needed to happen next. I had a house to maintain, a grandson to help raise, a son to support through divorce and healing. I had a life to rebuild, not from the ashes of betrayal, but from the foundation of truth I had fought so hard to uncover. That night, as I locked up the house and checked on Roberto one last time, sleeping peacefully, his face young and innocent in the moonlight, I made a decision. I would stay here in this house. I would not let Maria and Tim drive me away from the home I had built. The memories I had made, the life I had earned. They had taken enough. They wouldn't take this. And I would use everything I had learned about deception, about manipulation, about the darkness people could hide beneath pleasant surfaces to make sure my family was never vulnerable like this again. I would teach Roberto to question, to verify, to trust his instincts. I would teach him that kindness shouldn't mean being naive, that trust should be earned, that family was defined by actions, not just blood. I would be the grandmother he needed. Strong, protective, unshakable. The woman who had brought down murderers wouldn't let anything else harm her grandson. As I settled into bed that night, the house creaking around me in the summer breeze, I thought about age and wisdom, about survival and strength. Maria had called me an old woman like it was an insult, like age meant weakness. She had learned too late that age meant experience. It meant patience, strategic thinking, the ability to see the long game while younger people chase quick wins. It meant knowing when to fight and when to wait, when to reveal your cards and when to play dumb, when to trust and when to verify everything. I was 70 years old. I had survived betrayal, murder plots, attempts to frame me for crimes I didn't commit. I had brought down a killer using nothing but intelligence, persistence, and the element of surprise. I was old, but old meant dangerous in ways youth could never understand. And I would never be underestimated again. Outside, the summer night was warm and full of cricket songs, promising renewal. Fall would come eventually, then winter, then spring again. Life would continue, and I would be here, watching over my family, protecting what mattered, living with truth rather than comfortable lies. The phone on my nightstand buzzed. Text from Marcus downstairs. Thank you, Mom, for everything. For fighting for us, for being stronger than any of us knew. Love you. I smiled, typing back. I love you too. Now get some sleep. Tomorrow we keep rebuilding. Tomorrow and all the days after. Because that was what survivors did. We adapted. We overcame. We rebuilt on stronger foundations. The house settled into silence around me. Somewhere in the darkness, Thomas's ghost might have lingered, but I no longer felt haunted. The truth had driven out those demons. I was free. Wounded, yes, changed certainly, but free. And in that freedom I found something unexpected. Not happiness yet, but the promise of it. The knowledge that I had survived the worst and come out not broken, but forged into something harder, more resilient. It hadn't weakened me. It had been my greatest weapon. And if anyone else ever threatened my family, they would learn what I had learned in that terrible, transformative week. Never underestimate a 70-year-old woman with nothing left to lose and everything to protect. I closed my eyes, finally at peace, and slept without nightmares for the first time in months. The mystery was solved. The family was safe. Justice had been served. And Helen Henderson, grandmother, widow, survivor, had won. The next morning I woke to the smell of coffee. Marcus had already started breakfast. Through my bedroom window I could see Roberto playing in the backyard with our old dog, Buddy, throwing a ball, laughing, being a kid again. I got dressed slowly. My body aching in the way bodies do when you've lived 70 years. But it was a good ache. The ache of someone who had fought and won. Downstairs Marcus had made pancakes. Roberto's favorite. Morning, Mom, he said, pouring me coffee. Morning, Grandma, Roberto called, bursting through the back door with Buddy at his heels. We sat together at the kitchen table. The three of us, a family smaller than we used to be, wounded but healing and maybe, just maybe, stronger for what we had survived. What should we do today? Roberto asked through a mouthful of pancake. Whatever you want, sweetheart, I said. And I meant it. We had all the time in the world now. No more secrets, no more lies. Just truth and love and the promise of better days ahead. Outside, the sun climbed higher in the summer sky. Birds sang in the trees. Life, beautiful and messy and real, continued. And I was here to see it, to live it, to protect it for as long as I had left. That, I realized, was the greatest victory of all. Not revenge, not justice, but the simple, profound gift of being alive, of being present, of being surrounded by people I loved who loved me back. The terrible week that had started with a forgotten tablet and a shocking photo had led me through darkness, through betrayal and murder and fear. But it had also led me here, to this quiet morning, to this peaceful moment, to this second chance. I raised my coffee cup in a silent toast. To survival, to truth, to family, to the future, whatever it might bring, and to the strength that comes not from never falling, but from getting back up every single time. Roberto was talking about the butterfly again. Marcus was planning our afternoon. Buddy was begging for scraps under the table. And I was simply here, present, grateful, alive. The phone rang. Marcus's phone. He glanced at it and frowned. "It's the lawyer," he said. "Probably about the final estate paperwork." "Take it," I said. "We're not hiding from anything anymore." He answered, stepped into the other room. Roberto and I cleaned up the breakfast dishes together. She told me about summer camp, about swimming lessons, about a girl named Sophie who had shared her lunch with him. Normal things, beautiful, ordinary, normal things. Marcus came back, his face unreadable. "What is it?" I asked. "The estate is settled," he said slowly. "Everything's finalized. The house is yours free and clear. The insurance money is in trust for Roberto." He paused. "There's something else. Something the lawyer found going through Dad's safe deposit box." He pulled an envelope from his pocket. Old, worn, addressed to me in Thomas's handwriting. "Another letter?" I asked. "No," Marcus said. Dad had property we didn't know about. Cabin in Wyoming. A small rental house in New Mexico. Both paid off. Both generating income that was going into a separate account we never knew existed. I stared at the envelope. More secrets. Even in death, Thomas had secrets. "There's a note with them," Marcus continued. "From Dad, written the same day as his other letter. He says these properties are for you, your security, your independence. He wanted to make sure you'd be taken care of no matter what." I opened the envelope with shaking hands. "Read Thomas's note. Helen, these are yours. I bought them years ago as investments. I should have told you. Should have told you so many things, but I was a coward. Use them as you see fit. Sell them, keep them, whatever gives you peace. You deserve security. Deserve to never worry about money or depend on anyone. I failed you in every way that mattered. Let me at least do this one thing right. Thomas." I sat down heavily. The properties were worth, according to the deeds, over $500,000 combined, plus years of rental income sitting in an account I could now access. Thomas had left me wealthy, independent, secure. Even as he had betrayed me. He had tried in his broken way to protect me. "What do you want to do?" Marcus asked quietly. I looked at the deeds, at the bank statements, at the evidence of Thomas's final attempt at redemption. "I want to think about it," I said finally. "This is a lot to process." "Take your time, Mom," Marcus said. "There's no rush." But even as I said it, an idea was forming. A way to turn Thomas's final gift into something good. Something that would honor not the man he had been, but the man he should have been. "Actually," I said slowly, "I know exactly what to do." Over the next few months, I worked with lawyers and accountants. Set up a foundation. The Thomas Henderson Memorial Scholarship Fund for children of single parents, kids who had lost a parent to death or divorce or abandonment, kids like Roberto who were navigating life with one parent instead of two. The rental income from the properties would fund scholarships, help kids go to college who might not otherwise afford it, turn Thomas's secrets into something that helped others. The cabin in Wyoming I kept as a family retreat. Somewhere Marcus and Roberto and I could go. Somewhere we could make new memories untainted by the old ones. The house in New Mexico I sold. Used the money to establish the initial scholarship fund. 8 kids received scholarships the first year. Kids who wrote thank you letters that made me cry. Letters about dreams and hopes and futures that were now possible because of a program funded by a dead man's guilt. It didn't absolve Thomas. Nothing could. But it turned something rotten into something growing. Something beautiful. Maria heard about it in prison. Sent a letter through her lawyer. I burned it without reading it. I didn't need her words. Didn't want her poison in my life anymore. Tim wrote too, an apology, rambling and self-pitying. I saved that one. Gave it to Detective Rivera for her files. Evidence of his state of mind. Proof of his guilt. A year after that terrible week, we held the first annual scholarship ceremony. 8 kids and their families gathered at a local community center. Roberto helped present the awards, shy but proud. Marcus gave a speech about second chances and the importance of education. And I stood in the back watching, thinking about Thomas, about Maria, about betrayal and survival and the strange ways life circles back on itself. One of the scholarship recipients was a girl whose mother had died of cancer. She was 18, bright, planning to study medicine. She reminded me of Roberto, of the person Roberto might become. Strong despite loss, hopeful despite pain. After the ceremony, she approached me. "Mrs. Henderson," she said shyly. "I just wanted to thank you. This scholarship, it changes everything for me." "You earned it," I told her. "Your grades, your dedication, this is just helping you get where you already were going." "Dil'S," she said. "Not many people do things like this. Set up funds to help strangers. Means a lot." I thought about Thomas, about how he would have loved to see this, would have been proud maybe. Or maybe just relieved that something good had come from his mess. Sometimes I said carefully, "The best way to honor the people we've lost is to help the people who are still here." She nodded, understanding in her young eyes. "I'm going to pay it forward," she said. "When I'm a doctor, I'm going to help people who can't afford care. Keep the circle going." "That's exactly right," I said. And I meant it. 2 years after that terrible week, life had settled into a new normal. Marcus had met someone, a teacher named Sarah. Kind, honest, open, everything Maria hadn't been. They were taking it slow, very slow. But I could see hope returning to my son's eyes. Roberto was thriving, doing well in school, had joined the debate team, was thinking about colleges even though he was only 15. He talked to a therapist regularly, had good days and hard days, but more good than hard now. And me, I had become someone I never expected to be. Not just a widow, not just a grandmother, but a woman who had fought for her family and won. Who had taken the worst betrayal imaginable and transformed it into strength. I volunteered at the library, served on the scholarship committee, took up painting, started a book club, lived a full, rich life that had nothing to do with Thomas or Maria or the past. I carried the scars, but I didn't let them define me. One spring afternoon, 4 years after Thomas's death, I found myself at his grave. I hadn't been there since the funeral, hadn't wanted to. But something drew me there that day. The headstone was simple. Thomas Henderson, beloved husband and father. The dates of his birth and death. Nothing about who he really was. The complexity, the failures, the final attempts at redemption. I stood there for a long time, not crying, not angry, just thinking. "I forgive you," I said finally out loud to the wind and the grass and the stone. "Not because you deserve it. Not because what you did was okay, but because I deserve to be free of this anger. You were weak. You were selfish. You made terrible choices that hurt everyone who loved you. But you were also human, flawed and broken and trying in your own misguided way to find happiness. I don't forgive Maria. I don't forgive Tim. They don't get that from me. They chose murder. Chose to destroy lives for money. That's different. But you were just a foolish man who made foolish choices, and you paid for them with your life, with your legacy, with a family you lost." I touched the cold stone. "Hope you found peace. Whatever that means, wherever you are, I hope you're at peace." And then I walked away, back to my car, back to my life, back to the future I was building, free. That evening Marcus and Sarah came for dinner. Roberto brought a friend from school. We ate on the back patio, watching the sunset, talking and laughing. The sound of family. Not the family I had planned for. Not the family I had expected, but the family I had. Imperfect, scarred, but real. At one point, Roberto looked at me across the table. "Grandma," he said. "You're smiling." "I am," I said, surprised to realize it was true. "I'm happy." And I was. Not the naive happiness of someone who had never been hurt, but the deeper, richer happiness of someone who had been through fire and survived, who had lost everything and rebuilt, who had been underestimated and proved everyone wrong. The phone rang inside the house. My phone. I ignored it. Whoever it was could wait. This moment, this dinner, this family. This was what mattered. Later, after everyone had gone home, after the dishes were done and the house was quiet, I checked my voicemail. It was from Detective Rivera. "Mrs. Henderson, just wanted to give you an update. Maria's first parole hearing was denied. She'll serve her full sentence. Thought you'd want to know." I deleted the message. Maria was the past. This life, this beautiful, hard-won life, was my present, my future. I made myself tea, sat in my favorite chair, opened a book I'd been reading. Outside, stars came out one by one. The world kept turning. Life kept happening. And I was here to see it, to live it, to celebrate it. 7 years ago, a forgotten tablet had revealed terrible truths, had shattered my world, had forced me to become someone new, someone stronger, someone I never knew I could be. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. Wouldn't choose it if I could go back. But I also wouldn't trade who I had become. The strength I had found, the truth I now lived. Age I had learned was not weakness. Experience was not fragility. And a 70-year-old woman who had survived the unsurvivable was more dangerous than anyone could imagine, but also more alive, more present, more grateful for every moment. I finished my tea, turned off the lights, went to bed, and slept peacefully. No nightmares, no regrets, no fear, just peace. Deep, hard-won, beautiful peace. And in the morning I would wake up, make coffee, call Roberto, check on Marcus, water my garden, live my life. One day at a time, one choice at a time, one moment at a time. Free. The end. Now tell me, what would you have done if you were in my place? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching Jamal's stories. And don't forget to check out the video on your screen right now. I'm sure it will surprise you. But before you go, I want to leave you with one final thought. Life will test you in ways you never expect. People you trust will disappoint you. Situations you never imagined will become your reality. When that happens, remember this story. Remember that strength doesn't come from never being hurt. Comes from refusing to stay down when you are. That wisdom doesn't come from never making mistakes. Comes from learning from the mistakes others make around you. That justice doesn't always come quickly or easily, but it comes if you fight for it, if you're smart about it, if you refuse to give up. And most importantly, remember that you are never too old, too weak, or too powerless to fight for what's right. Age is not a weakness. It's a weapon. Use it. I did, and I'm still here, still standing, still strong, still dangerous to anyone who threatens my family. The world underestimates old people. Let them and then prove them wrong. Now go live your life. Protect your family. Trust your instincts. And never, ever let anyone make you feel powerless. You're stronger than you know. Promise you that. 'Cause I was once just like you. Thinking I was ordinary. Thinking I was weak. Thinking I couldn't possibly handle what life was throwing at me. I was wrong. And so are you. You can handle more than you think. You can survive more than you imagine. You can become more than you ever dreamed. I'm proof of that. This story is proof of that. So take it, learn from it, use it, and when life tests you, and it will, remember the woman who found her daughter-in-law's tablet and discovered a truth that should have destroyed her, but didn't. Remember that she fought back. And won. You can too. Believe in you. Now go prove me right. Thank you for being here, for listening to my story, for taking this journey with me. Subscribe to Jamal's Stories if you haven't already. Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, someone who's going through their own battle, someone who needs to know they're not alone. And comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what you thought. Tell me your own stories if you want to share. I read every comment. Every message matters. You matter. Your story matters. Never forget that. Until next time, this is Helen Henderson, grandmother, widow, survivor, fighter, signing off.